It has been going constantly ever since. It still presents, right, 2 days every week in the wonderful Palacio de Bellas Artes in Mexico City. And if you ever have the opportunity to go there, you should. Viviana is now the artistic director of the ballet founded by her late mother. She directed their school. She has brought Ballet Folklórico to the United States and holds master classes and other programs across the United States, trying to make it a larger international representation of Mexican culture. And it is a great honor to have her with us. But I also want to introduce Victoria Saiki Serna. Victoria is a young woman born in Mexico City, came to Texas and did most of her early education in Greater Austin, Texas, went to the wonderful university in I can simply erase certain universities, but I will not. Went to Rice University in Houston, where she graduated at the top of her class. All the while, she has maintained a career dancing Ballet Folklórico, which she has continued here as she came to Georgetown last year as a doctoral student in Mexican history, where I am honored to say, as her supervisor, she is thriving. So this aims to be a conversation between Victoria and Viviana, and that's more than enough from me. I will pass the microphone to Victoria and let them carry on.
Well, good evening, everyone. Thank you for coming out to this event. And Maestra Viviana, thank you so much for coming. It's a true honor to have you here.
Thank you. I would like to thank you to the Georgetown University for receiving us. Mr. Tutina, thank you for opening these beautiful doors to come in. Thank you for, I know her since she was a little girl with her brother. She started dancing and taking the classes a long time ago, and to see her how she's growing also as a dancer is a really nice and it's grateful for us. Thank you for the public to be here, and thank you everyone. Gracias, mis hijas. They are my two daughters here with me. Thank you, everybody. Gracias.
No, thank you. You're too kind. So a lot of people are familiar with the work that your mother did, but I actually want to open up and ask you about your own work, because you have been traveling Mexico recently doing more research on choreographies. Can you tell us what that's been like? What is it like to do research in the field? Where have you visited and what have you learned?
Well, first of all, I really have to prepare myself to make choreography because my mother was so great doing it, and she make a whole investigations about everything that she done. That I was always thinking I'm not ready to do jump from being teacher and being dancer to being director of the school to be choreographer. But I started to study really strong, and what I really make me keep going, it was going to the small towns, and they make the inspiration to create something for the company. I also have a company that it's called México en Movimiento. That is a Mexican contemporary company. So I start doing smaller works to see how it fits in the Folklórico, and also as a contemporary choreographer. I used to study with Alvin Ailey, with Alvin Nicolai, Murray Lewis in New York. I was at the London School in England. I have a license and fellowship with the Imperial Society of Teachers of Dancing in England. So that was my other me. So that I tried to make a fusion. But my mother was also a contemporary dancer, and she used to have, before she had the Ballet Folklórico, a contemporary Mexican also dance. So I think I took the path and keep going. And so for now, I've been doing almost 10 choreographies for the company.
Well, actually, a couple of weeks ago, not too long ago, the company produced a number with Mono Blanco, an Oscar-nominated group. Can you tell us more about that process and how you got inspiration?
Well, we started working with Mono Blanco in about two years ago, and he is a really good composer. It's not only a musician that reproduces, he's also a creator. Now, Rihanna called him to make music for her, and he was nominated in the Oscar for his music and for a Grammy. And he's a really special because he lives in a small town, and he's growing. Now he's working with another route that is our Afro roots in Mexico. He went to Senegal to feel more the connection between those roots and Mexico. So he's making works that are really interesting. Now we hope soon we will be making with people from Senegal, Mono Blanco and Ballet Folklórico a job together.
Well, as you've taught, these numbers to us throughout the various master classes here in the US, one of the things that you've said that has most stuck to me is about the audience, actually. And you talk about how a lot of these dances originally are danced by Mexicans in their small towns for themselves. But when you go through that choreographic process, you have to change some things to make sure that the person in the front row sees the number, and the person all the way in the top balcony also is able to appreciate the beauty of the dance. So how do you decide what elements to change, when to bring in contemporary dancing, and how do you balance that with tradition?
Well, some of our works is totally traditional. Some works that we don't have the pre-Hispanic heritage alive. We have the seats we call pueblos originarios. I don't know how to say that in English, but they are still alive, our traditions. But the pre-Hispanic roots were taken out. Was the first things to take out when the Spanish arrives to Mexica. So they, what they took is the ritual part, because the dance and the music was ritual. So they have to put the Catholic religion into the people. They have to take it out. But they were not used to go inside the churches. That's why in Mexico, all over Mexico, you see something that is called atrio, that is a cross in a park in front of the church, and so that people start praying out there. So I start searching. So she used the contemporary work to go to study the codices and all the image that she has near with anthropologists to make a figure. From one figure to another was made, most of it with contemporary movements, and create music like with Silvestre Revueltas, a lot of people know, the Carlos Chavez, El Guapango de Moncayo, and so a lot of work that she did together with Mexican composers, big composers, because it was a time that was really interesting in Mexico, after the revolution, there was a lot of things that it was the European culture or the African culture, but it was not a, I don't know how you say nacionalismo.
Nationalism.
So the government starts to push the nacionalismo in Mexico. That's why you see a lot of mural paintings, because the government asked the painters to paint the walls and not to take out their drawings out of the country. So that's why they start to doing something like a national language. So then the root starts to just cross between each other, because if you go to Oaxaca or you go to Sonora or you go to Yucatan, even we have the same roots, they absorb it in a different way. So if you see the traditions now in Yucatan are quite different from Sonora, quite different from the center, how it was fixed, we don't know yet exactly, because these come from France, these come from Lanao de China. So what happened in Mexico is at that time the people come together. So if you see the African, you see us café con leche. I don't know how you say. So we are in a mixture of colors. And we also have a lot of Asian, because it was 200 years of the Galeón de Manila traveling and coming from Asia, not China, Asia, Philippines, Tibet, Japan, but the Galeón de Manila changed the roots of the silk. So there are really interesting things and interesting legends. So she started working with contemporary to talk about all those things that are not really that traditional.
Well, actually, speaking to the point you just mentioned about the silk, the first thing that came to my mind is the paliacate in Guerrero. You twirl it around and you use it as a language, and that also communicates to the audience, right?
Yes, and that the paliacate came from India. It was not even from Philippines, it was from India. So they start using it as a language to say churn, come, because we have a lot of imitation songs, dancing, like el toro, the bull, and the tigre. We have a lot of sones that are imitation of the animals, but the paliacate always help us to say something. It's not only a thing that you have beautiful wearing here, it's a language, a whole language. Because if you do it like, turn it like this and you put the bull,
The horns.
horns. So we have a lot of things, and in the now, when the now was returning to Philippines, they have a pañuelo, a paliacate, that is called el pañuelo de los adioses. So they always say goodbye with a pañuelo. They never say goodbye with the hand. So there are a lot of things that are in our traditions that come from the history of the country.
Well, and the other thing I'm thinking of right now is that even when there isn't a formalized language in these traditions, there is also an embedded language in the dances, right? I'm thinking of La Morena, which is a dance from the state of Veracruz on the coast of Mexico. And you're imitating the movement of the waves with the skirt, for instance.
Yes, my mother has a lot of creative. She tried to understand, not to repeat what she saw, so to translate what was the language of the Mexican roots. So she had a lot of mixtures. She used to go to the small towns, and it was really fun, because when someone was selling her a dress, bordado, she always asked, can you put a little bit less money in that? that's why, and she told me once, why you're asking them? And she said, that's because they start telling the history of the dress. Because they tell you the history when they say, I cannot give you for less money because I have 3 months doing it. It is the heritage of my mother that teach me. The flower that I grow with it, the food that I grow with it. There is a huipil in Magdalena's that is the whole cosmos. And the center of the huipil, like this, but it's long, it's the head. So the head was the center of the cosmos. So, and if you see it first start what they call monos de agua, que it was the, like,
A monkey.
like a monkey of water, because they were jumping, trying to tell the earth to rain. And then it starts el bordado.
The
My
border.
Spanglish is really
The
wonderful.
crocheting, the knitting.
But to do the whole cosmos. And they believe that the head is quite the same of the big cosmos. So that's why the head goes out when it finished the row. Yeah, so I think we have a lot of things to say about all the heritage of Mexico, the carnivals. If you go to Tlaxcala one time, if you go to each small town, they have different beliefs about it, but they are doing this for the same thing. And in San Juan Totolac, I just been there. It's San Juan Totolac. It's a place that they do a lot of bread. It's we have a bread that is anise. How do you say anise? You know, say anise.
Anise, I think. I'm not up to date with
Pan
my
de anise,
spices.
that is pan from the towns, and that town make a lot of bread. So there are 3 important days in the carnival. The first day, all the bread goes for the church. The second day goes for the priests. And then the third day is for the dancers, but they cannot eat it just after they did the carnival. Because the carnival, it says, bye to the bad things. So it's adiós a la carne.
We're saying bye to the meat, and essentially the dancers are not allowed
not
to
the
eat
meat
before.
that you eat. So the belief is that tus pecados
Your
se
sins.
acaban ahí. Por eso, that's why they put mask, because they are not them, that they are doing the bad things. It's the mask what is doing the bad things. So after 1 week is miércoles de ceniza, the cross that they put.
Ash Wednesday.
So they purify what they did in the carnival. So, okay, so they can, and if you go to the chorus, there's more strong beliefs. So I think what makes my mother really, she was really in love with our traditions, our culture, our heritage, our beliefs, because we have a lot of fantasy and we have a lot of magic things. And so she starts to go in profoundly. Even they said that the Spanish one bring us the lottery, but it was from the pre-Hispanic. They believed it was the patoli. They used to have figures, and they asked gods to answer it when they throw the stone. And what it was is like the gods are talking to them by the stone. So there was a lot of beliefs that make us go deeper in the study of our roots.
Well, I want to switch a little bit of our gears, and you were mentioning we as Mexicans, as a country, we have a lot to say. And one of the groups that the company performs often for is diplomats that come over from all over the world to see Mexico, either for state visits or for simple pleasure. And the company really is considered the top cultural ambassador for the nation. So why do you think is it important for the company to be present at these diplomatic affairs? And what do you see the role of the company as?
Well, I think it's important to go to everybody, all the diplomats help us to move around the world. So we've been trying to keep our quality of the company. The company is this year 71 years, so alive. And what we've been changing some little things as the folk moves slower than the other technology and everything. The folk's evolution is not a dead thing, it is alive. So the evolution is a little bit slower, but they have evolution. So we want to keep making interesting in the world, in our roots. So because the more interesting, más interés que haya
The more interest there is.
they have, more alive it would be, still be living. Because it's not easy in the world to go to a country and find in a small town that the people are really believing what they are doing. They are not doing, we just went in Corpus Christi, Temascalcingo, the cheetahs. I don't know if someone have seen the big mask of old people that are beautiful. And they have a lot to say. And I went to a church, they make a huge ritual, but it could not be priest inside the church. So the priest has to go out, and they go inside with all those masks, and with an offering, and with light, and with copal, and a lot of people in the knees playing a campana, a bell, and turn to the people and say, when they start dancing, that's the really strange thing. That is a dance to make the rain come. And I didn't know what happened, but that day was really hot. And when they start jumping and dancing and jumping and go to the church, it starts to rain slow, and then it comes a huge rain. So they really have the faith of what they do. You see them, and they are not doing the things for someone to see them. They are doing because of their beliefs. So they go deep in your heart, that you see them with a great faith.
Yeah, well, I think that even if these people who are originally dancing, these numbers are not doing it with the intention of performing, the company has been successful at channeling all that emotion to people that do want to see it as a performance, right? JFK, for instance, has seen the ballet. Clinton has seen the ballet. Can you tell us more about those visits?
Yes, I think it's really wonderful when you achieve the interest of everybody, because it's not easy. The people that is so busy or has a lot of things that to think, that they are there for 2 hours seeing the show. For us, it's really wonderful. It's a way to go more deep and try. Our dancers know that they have to make the public an emotion. that if their heart is beating like this, you have to try that the public beats also as you are beating, as you are dancing. So for those people that has a lot of difficult things to do in the world and stay for a while looking show or performance, it's for us really important. So we take care about doing really perfect, the most perfect that we can. But the best thing I still know, let's go to the towns and learn about our people.
Well, I have the impression, and I don't think I'm the only one, that you've made the hearts of a lot of people beat internationally as well, because the company has gone on countless international tours. Can you tell us some stories about your favorite audience reactions from when the company has been abroad?
Well, we have a lot of different reactions because in Japan we were in a theater and nobody what's going on? We went with a company that is Minon. That's really, really interesting. You might find it. It's a Buddhist community. They donate $1 a week. They are 4 million of people all over Japan with Minon, of Buddhist people that meditates and everything. So they donated to bring to Japan the best things that happen in the world, exposition, company, dancing. And so they don't have to make publicity, they rent the theaters, and so they're so educated. And we were also almost crying, but at the end it was, whoop, it changed the public and they started clapping and everything was perfect. Perfect. They make the pyramid in Japan because it was cheaper to make it than to bring it from Mexico. So they made it perfect, better than ours. The lights, so they came to the theater and they started drawing and drawing one another. Perfect. Everything was at 10:45 with 15 seconds, with 60 décimas de segundo at that time. So we learned that perfection exists.
And there's a lot of obstacles to that perfection. I've heard a story of one time that the trunks with all of the costumes and outfits did not come through.
Yes, in Colombia it happens that. Oh. So we went with a company of folk, Colombian folk, and can you bring this hat and this skirt? And so we made it. One thing that just happened that it was wonderful, it's Mexico, so they don't have, if the light goes out, they don't have planta, I don't know how you say, the planta de luz. So in the theater, the light went out. We were at Jalisco. So one of the people of the public put her light on the cellular, so one, and all the theater put the light, and we end the performance with the light of the cells. So everything, and they want more, and they took a photograph from back the stage to the audience that it was wonderful to see all the lights of the cellular phone. So we have a lot of histories, El Festival Cervantino, that the people goes to, it's free, but they come from the morning and they sit. And we have a huge line, but the people, some of them stays in the night before to have their own place. So we have a lot of different experience. I think that makes us keep going on, and trying to keep What I think that it's really, really important is not to forget our roots, not to forget what we feel when we learn about what we are doing. Even the authenticity exactly doesn't exist in the theater, because if you go to a small town, if they are dancing in the streets, they can dance to see that. There, it's 10 hours, 12 hours. So you have to put counts, you have to put one view, you have to put everything on a place. And so after that, there's no authenticity. We have to make the emotion in the public, so we can try them to feel what we are doing, so the dancers must know what they are doing. So they have the collective unconscious can go to the public and translate what they believe and what they like and what they is the dance. Where is it from? If it's pre-Hispanic, if it's the conquest, if it's mestizo, if it's fusion, but they have to know to communicate to the public.
Well, speaking about not forgetting our roots, I think one of your most important legacies here in the United States has been establishing Acades, which is an organization that gives master classes and workshops to students who dance folklórico all over the United States. And we actually just finished one at the Kennedy Center yesterday, which was really exciting. I've been taking these master classes, as you mentioned, since I was about ye tall. And it's been a huge pleasure, not only because you get to teach us, but because I think people who might not have the opportunity to go back to Mexico as much as they wish have a chance to get in touch with those roots through dancing. So what legacy do you want to leave with these Mexican and Mexican-American students here in the United States?
Well, I think it's been growing a lot, the folk groups in the States. I think in all California are 300 groups. In Texas, I don't know, but most of the high schools has one mariachi, one Folklórico group. In Edinburgh, I went to Texas Panama University also, and so on. I think what we want to live is that it's a great to remember our roots, and it's great to be here in a country that opened the doors and let you do what you want.
It's wonderful to remember our roots, and I think we also have to find strength in that, right? Strength and unity, because having experienced it myself, I will confess, we do not always get along, even if there are 300 groups only in California, right? And I think that's another really important legacy of Acades, because I've met people from El Paso, from San Antonio, from California, from Arizona most recently this weekend.
See, so what we really want to share is what is the roots, what are they doing, and making them to love where they become from and not be ashamed of where it becomes. So be proud from where you come, and be proud to be here making what you want and in a country that lets you grow. So I think those things is to get stronger, the roots and the present.
And so for all of us who are not necessarily of Mexican heritage, but are watching all this wonderful work that you are doing, what message would you like to leave with us?
Well, that they have it's really important to have the knowledge of and it makes you more richer to know all the roots. And the more richer is that it's still alive. And here is growing, and they are making their own personality, so I think that makes sure there are a lot of groups. You can ¿cómo se llama este? Ahorita les digo, uno se llama Las Cafeteras. You can hear about them, they are great. Ahorita les digo, no me acuerdo bien el nombre, pero uno que hicieron un disco que se llama The Wall, otros que hicieron el jarabe neoyorquino. So there are a lot of things going on here with wonderful music, wonderful composers, wonderful singers. We also, with my contemporary company, I'm bringing that music to Mexico. So they also know what is going on here because it's really interesting, because this is a language of them. It's part of what they were and part of what they are and what they can create with all those mixtures.
Maestra Viviana, thank you again so
No,
much
gracias.
for coming.
Gracias.
It's so wonderful to hear all of your wisdom.
First of all, very much want to thank Viviana and Victoria. But we also want to give folks here a chance to ask questions of our distinguished guests. So there are a couple of microphones here, and I was hoping we had a couple of hands that would pass them around. And if people have questions for our guests, it's a good time to ask them.
Muy buenas tardes, maestra. A very good evening. It's an honor to have you here. Soy Francisco Álvarez Higarera, originario de Jalisco, entonces perdón que se les fue la luz en esa ocasión.
No, no fue en Jalisco, fue en Tabasco. En Jalisco del ballet.
Yo tengo muchos amigos que trabajan en el ámbito creativo. I have a lot of friends who are dancers, they work in the creative economy in some way. And working in the creative economy sometimes means that these are not as traditional jobs. Job security is always a concern. Do you have any thoughts on how local, state, even the federal government in Mexico can help support creative people so that they can see the creative space, the creative economy as a viable future for their own careers? Do I need to translate that, or am I?
Translate. No,
Sí. Bueno, siguiendo en eso, tengo muchos amigos conocidos también que están en el ámbito creativo en varias áreas. Es toda una economía creativa, por decirlo así. Pero sabemos que muchas veces hay una infrecuencia de empleos, una falta de oportunidades, y la cuestión es cómo podemos impulsar para que, ¿qué se debe hacer a un nivel estatal, incluso federal, para que el ámbito creativo pueda ser un espacio viable para que alguien pueda realizar una profesión en lo que sea, en lo técnico, en lo artístico, incluso en cuestiones administrativas? ¿Cuáles consejos o cuáles pensamientos, comentarios quisiera compartir al respecto que pueden hacer los gobiernos? Gracias.
Okay. You are telling me about the American governments or Mexican governments? Because it's quite different, the forms. The forms here are really, I think, much easier to achieve what you want. In Mexico, it's really much harder to get there. And just in Mexico, they have a lot of becas, but they are really hard to go to it. Now they are trying to make some space for people to present in the good theaters, but what is not so easy is to keep going, because maybe they gave you a scholarship for 2 years, but then it stops. And the people starts to be como se acostumbra a una beca, se acostumbra a una scholarship. They get and then they don't know how to make the work, give them money, not only by a scholarship. They grow sometimes with a scholarship, and then what happens if they don't have it? So I think they have to prepare themselves, but also try to learn about everything that makes you achieve that. I tell you again, here is much easier because it's a lot of foundations and that can keep going. It's not for 2 years, it's not for 1 year. It is, ¿cómo se dice? Non-profits, a lot of non-profits that they have helped to keep going. In Mexico, that almost doesn't happen. So that's why they cannot, they start doing a good work and stop, and so I think it's harder, but they have to be more creative to find the way to keep going.
Gracias, maestra, y gracias, Vicky.
Hi, I also would like to thank you so much for coming and just telling us more about your experience with the company. My name is Diana Rivas, I'm from Michoacan, and I love Folklórico since I was little, like Victoria too. Like I've been dancing, and then I moved to the US, so it was a bit harder. Cuando me vine a Estados Unidos fue un poquito más difícil porque pues ya no había grupos donde vivía yo. And I just wanted to ask, apart from throwing these amazing performances for diplomats and for international audiences, what tools or strategies does the company take domestically to ensure that these traditions are kept alive so that future generations will keep going with them?
Yes, we work a lot of it. What I do now with the company is going to the places where the dance is the tradition, and also work with what's going on with the public. The public now is not as it was a long time ago when my mother starts the company, because the attention is just quite shorter, because we have a lot of technology and not a lot of things to hear about, or you had information, immediate information. So the attention, what we are been doing is trying to learn about what the public is feeling, and to make more dynamic some things, or to not change it, maybe move the dynamics, move the way that we approach to the public. And we keep studying. It's not that I go teach and say, no, I still go to the towns, I still go to learn about the different feasts or festivities in the different towns. So try to keep that feeling in me alive to make the company feel it too. So that's how we keep going. It's not only the movement, it's a lot of things that we have to look at.
Once again, thank you. Thank you.
Gracias,
We're going to
gracias,
take a
Dr.
5-minute transition to remove chairs, do some changing, and if you will give us a 5-minute exhale, we will have a wonderful performance from Corazón Folklórico.
Thank you, Pablo. Thank you.
A usted, maestra.